3 spine-chilling true end-of-summer tales, sinister secrets revealed, cursed horrors await. The sun dipped low in the sky, bleeding crimson into the wispy clouds as Lisa stared out the window at the crumbling houses that bordered her new neighborhood. She had hoped for a fresh start, free from the ghosts of her past. But little did she know, this place was haunted by its own secrets, sinister whispers curling like smoke in the oppressive summer air. It all began with the tales of the abandoned house across the street, a place steeped in the dread of a notorious recluse who had vanished amid a string of mysterious disappearances. The neighbors spoke in hushed tones, shifty glances darting around as if the walls themselves could hear. Jake and Lily had fallen asleep, but Lisa could not shake off the unease creeping around the edges of her mind. As the last light drained from the sky, her phone pierced the air with a violent ring. Heart racing, she answered, but an unsettling voice gripped her, an anxious woman claiming to be the missing neighbor's daughter. The words tumbled out, the panic palpable, "Help me. They're watching, shadows are moving." She dismissed it as a prank, a product of an imagination warped by local lore. Yet her skepticism waned as soft noises echoed from the darkened house, faint thumps, a whispering breeze through cracked windows. The air thickened with dread, leaving Lisa gasping for breath. She felt drawn, almost against her will, to investigate. Drawing a deep breath, she stepped outside into the shrouded night, shadows enveloping her like a dark cloak. Each creaky board beneath her feet echoed louder than before, shadows clinging to her heels. As she neared the dilapidated house, her heart thundered, each beat a reminder of the lurking presence she felt behind her. Something was alive in that house, waiting. As she conversed with neighboring women in the corner store, a collective hush fell. Their words hung heavy with the weight of secrets, whispers of a family curse, laughter tinged with fear. "You have to steer clear of that house," one said, her voice quaking. Lisa felt the chill crawl up her spine. Could the very fabric of this community be woven with darkness and deceit? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The unease coiled tighter, a noose around her heart as she pried deeper. A clipping from an old newspaper surfaced at the library, faded words recounting the chilling disappearances. Yet her chest tightened further when she recognized names. Faces she'd seen around town now danced in her mind, a macabre gallery etched with horror. Stepping away from the light of the street lamp, Lisa noticed a figure shift in the abandoned house's window, silhouette sharp and menacing, watching her. The realization hit hard, this neighborhood concealed more than just local lore. With her pulse hammering, she dashed back home to her sleeping children. As she reached the door, an icy whisper slipped through the dark, calling her name softly, desperately. It resounded through her mind with one question: was it a plea for help, or something far more sinister? Curiosity and terror flooded her senses as she stood frozen, aware that safety may be merely an illusion. What waited for her next? Lisa stood at her front door, breathless, the whisper still crawling through her mind like icy fingers. Was it real? Her heart raced, threatening to burst. She stared into the dark, knowing the shadows were watching, waiting. What had she unleashed just by dipping her toes into the mystery of that abandoned house? The voice echoed again, soft but insistent, a faint thread of desperation woven through her thoughts. She hesitated, torn between two worlds, the soft safe cocoon of her home and the chilling abyss of unknown horrors across the street. Collecting herself, Lisa stepped back into the dim light. She needed answers, no matter the cost. As she crossed her living room, she noticed that the silence was heavier than before. The muted sounds of her children sleeping lent a false sense of security, which only made the hairs on the back of her neck stand taller. She halted briefly by their door, listening to their gentle breaths, before grabbing her jacket, wrapping it tightly around her. The night air was colder, a sharp bite against her skin as she stepped outside. A fog hung low, swirling around her feet, each step feeling like she was wading through an unseen current that urged her back. The abandoned house loomed ahead, a darkened hulking mass that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Suddenly, the wind shifted, an urgent wail sweeping through the night, like a warning. Lisa's pulse quickened, but she pressed on, compelled by an instinct she couldn't comprehend. Each creaking step toward the house sent tremors through her body. Closer now, the window stared back at her, the figure, no longer a shadow but a promise of something sinister lurking within. Then she saw it, an outline moving behind the glass, a flicker of pale skin, a face half hidden, eerily twisted into a smirk that set Lisa's veins on fire with cold dread. It was watching her, and the air became thick with static, as if time itself held its breath. The front door of the house, ajar, beckoned her like a siren. The call of horror whispered sweetly in her ear. Lisa hesitated, recalling the warnings of those women at the store, the curses, the disappearances. But with every fiber of her being, she felt compelled to discover the truth buried within those walls. Just one look. Lisa muttered to herself, desperately seeking bravery. The thought spiraled around her head, growing louder than the alarm bells ringing in her heart. With a trembling hand, she pushed the door open, the old wood groaning in protest. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust and regret. A foul smell wafted around her, like something rotting beneath a nature of long-forgotten memories. The house exhaled as she entered, a breath of darkness that hinted at horror within. Lisa stepped into the darkness, heart pounding. The large open space was engulfed in shadow, the moonlight barely piercing through the grime on the windows. As she moved deeper, she could hear the faint sound of weeping, echoing through the hallways, pulling her closer to the source. "Help!" the voice echoed in a chorus of despair, chilling her to the bone. "Help me!" With each step forward, Lisa felt gravity shifting, an otherworldly weight pushing her into the unknown. The shadows danced angrily, flickering like candle flames caught in a storm. Summoning the last of her courage, she called out, "Who's there?" Her voice trembled, wavering in the darkness. The hushed murmurs stopped abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence that swallowed the air around her. Moments stretched painfully, but then a shadow flickered at the end of the hall, solid and looming, eyes glinting like shards of broken glass, and an answer came, echoing back in a voice too familiar and yet distorted, "You should have stayed away, Lisa." Fear gripped her, a vice around her chest, as she realized that this was just the beginning. What lay ahead wasn't just about her, it was about her children too. A horrible realization dawned. What had she awakened? Lisa's breath hitched, and the ground beneath her seemed to tremble as if issuing a warning. She peered deeper into the hallway, shadows flickering like a film reel, stitching together images of despair and loss. The voice lingered in her ears, writhing and twisting, hollow yet filled with menace. "You should have stayed away, Lisa." The words dripped with malice, playing her fears like a finely tuned instrument. She took a tentative step back, her instincts screaming at her to flee, but the pull of the unknown was stronger. She clenched her fist, digging her nails into her palm to dull the fear surging through her. "Who are you?" she shouted, desperation painting her voice, trying to take control of the spiraling dread threatening to envelop her. Silence lingered, thick and suffocating, before a creaking echoed from the end of the hall. Lisa's heart thundered in her chest as she squinted into the darkness. The silhouette shifted, inching closer, each movement drawing the light into deeper shadows. Goosebumps rose along her skin, tingling with the realization that she was not alone. "I can help," the distorted voice carried warmth, an enticing layer to the chilling terror coursing through her. "Come find me. The truth waits for you." Against her better judgment, she stepped forward, drawn by the echo of that promise. The floor creaked underfoot, each groan a warning. Whispers surged around her, a swirling cacophony of voices tinged with pages from past lives, pulling her into their narrative, a forgotten tale that clawed at the edges of memory, the hallway narrowed, walls lined with photographs, their faces obscured by shadows. As she grazed her fingers across the frames, a shudder rippled through her. These people, they were familiar. Not known to her, but somehow inherent to the town's history, a history laced with loss and unanswered questions. The faces appeared anguished, eyes hollow as if pleading for release. Then, abruptly, something slid past her. A rush of cold air whipped through the corridor, and Lisa recoiled, her breath seizing in her throat. The wails returned, echoing louder, filled with a longing that pricked at her heart. "Help us!" The portraits trembled on the walls, and the whispers morphed into frantic cries. Lisa spun around, her breath quickening, pulse racing like a drum. The very house seemed alive, closing in on her. "Turn back!" The voice flickered from behind her, too close now, clinging to her with its cold essence. She felt that strange tug pulling at her, an inexplicable urge to surrender, to yield to whatever horror awaited. But her children, the image of their sleeping forms, anchored her in that moment of chaos. "No!" she shouted defiantly, wrestling her fear, turning toward the shadows gathering like a storm. "I want to let you have them." From behind her, she sensed movement, something darting at the periphery of her vision. She spun, heart pounding as she faced the doorway. A figure stood there, a woman, draped in shadows and flickering light, her features obscured yet undeniably familiar. The woman raised a hand, fingers beckoning. "Come, Lisa. It is your destiny to set us free." The atmosphere thickened, the weight of sorrow and anger pressing down, and Lisa realized in gut-wrenching clarity that the truth wasn't just a reveal, it was suffocatingly intertwined with something dark that sought to ensnare her. Panic washed over her as she stumbled backward. "Stay away." But the woman stepped closer, her grin widening, revealing teeth that glinted in the dim light. "No one escapes their fate, Lisa. You are part of us now." In that moment, Lisa felt the house shudder, as if awakening to its own malevolence. Her heart raced, and the urge to flee surged through her veins. She turned, sprinting down the corridor, but shadows seemed to stretch across the walls, reaching out, grasping at her. With every frenzied step, the house echoed her fears. What had she awakened? As the door loomed ahead, a thought clawed at her mind. Would she escape, or become just another whisper within these walls? The house roared behind her, its very foundation trembling, and just as she reached for the handle, a chilling breath met her ear. Too late. The door refused to budge as she pulled frantically, the shadows closing in, laughter ringing in her ears. "What will you sacrifice?" The voice echoed ominously, and darkness consumed her. Lisa's scream was swallowed whole, leaving only silence as the house nestled back into its dreary slumber. What had she unleashed, and could she wrestle back control before it was too late? Lisa hit the ground hard, darkness spinning around her like a living thing. Fear pooled in her stomach, making her gasp for breath. She pushed herself up, trembling. The hallway loomed before her, a path steeped in shadows, taunting her with memories that didn't belong to her. She blinked, trying to focus, but the vision of spectral faces danced in the corners of her mind, their mouths moving in silent screams. "Get up!" she hissed at herself, nausea mixing with adrenaline. The voice of the woman echoed in her head. Destiny. Choice. Was her fate tied to these lost souls? But the chilling question lingered, what had she sacrificed? Lisa stumbled down the corridor, every heartbeat a drum of panic. Whispers slithered back, weaving through the air thick with dread. "Help us!" They twisted around her, clawing at her legs, tugging her back toward what felt like a ravenous mouth ready to swallow her whole. She pressed on, fueled by instinct and anxiety. The old wood creaked beneath her weight, as if the house itself were alive, watching, waiting. The door she had fought to escape looked different now, warped, as if it breathed in sync with the house. She reached for the handle again, heart pounding, desperation clawing at her. But before her fingers could grip the cold metal, a flash of movement caught her eye. A figure stepped into view, its presence flooding the hallway with a heavy darkness. Lisa froze. It was the woman from before, but she looked different now. Her eyes glinted with a sinister light. "I told you, no one escapes," she whispered, breath rancid with secrets and bitterness. "Let me go," Lisa cried, fear gripping her throat. The woman took a step forward, and the air thickened around them. "You think you can fight fate? You are already part of their story." "No. This isn't my story," Lisa shouted defiantly. The woman's laugh rang out, a chilling melody of twisted joy, reverberating through the air like cracked glass. "But that's where you're wrong, dear Lisa. You already chose them when you entered this cursed place." Lisa's mind raced. Images of home filled her senses, her children's laughter, the warmth of their hugs. But then the whispers returned, louder than ever. "Help us. Set us free." "No!" She screamed again, shaking her head, scrambling to distance herself from the voices. She turned, frantic, looking for an escape. As she darted down the hallway, the walls seemed to close in, shadows stretching toward her like skeletal fingers reaching for her flesh. Her pulse pounded in her ears, drowning out everything else, until all she could hear were the echoes of her own screams. "Not your fate," she shouted, resolve building inside her. The weight of fear was heavy, but she felt a flicker of anger ignite. She wasn't going to let this house claim her. She turned to face the woman again. "You can't keep me here." The figure paused, flickering like an old film, and in that moment of distraction, Lisa seized the opportunity to sprint past. She lunged toward a nearby door that seemed to beckon with eager light, praying it would lead her away from this nightmare. The handle twisted easily in her grip this time. As the door swung open, an overwhelming rush of wind collided with her face, a gust that promised freedom but carried the stench of decay. But hesitation gripped Lisa. In the back of her mind, the agony of the trapped souls surged. "If I leave, what happens to them?" She hesitated, her heart torn. The call of her children clamored for her attention, but would leaving mean abandoning those desperate for rescue? "Choose." The woman bellowed from behind her, dark laughter slicing through the air like a knife. Lisa swallowed hard, torn between two worlds, the living and the lost. The door's light flickered, uncertain like her resolve. Where does loyalty end, and survival begin? "Tell me what to do," she shouted back, yearning for direction that never came. "Only you can decide." The voice slithered into silence, leaving her with an impossible choice at the threshold of hope and despair, and just as she felt the door shudder against the weight of her decision, a hand gripped her shoulder tightly from behind. She flinched as a chilling voice rasped into her ear, "You can't run from who you are." What did that mean? And who was waiting behind the very door she clutched? The grip on Lisa's shoulder felt like ice spreading through her body. She gasped, spinning around to confront the source of the voice. It was the woman again, but something had shifted. The shadows twisted and contorted, distorting her features into a grotesque mask of malice. "You can't escape, darling," the woman cooed, her voice dripping with a sickly sweet malice. "You need to understand your purpose." Lisa's mind raced. The memories of her children rushed back, soft giggles, little hands grasping hers. She clenched her fists, willing herself to stay grounded. This place was trying to break her. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, her voice tremulous but defiant. The woman leaned in closer, her breath cold against Lisa's skin. "You're here for a reason. They need you, all of them. You don't just leave them, you become part of their story." "Why? I don't want to be part of this," Lisa shouted, anger building. The woman smiled, revealing teeth that glinted like broken glass. "You cannot change what you are, Lisa. You think you are a savior, but you are merely a key or perhaps a vessel." Panic surged. It felt like the walls closed in further, pressing against her as shadows writhed and pulsed, echoing her dread. "No, I won't let you take me. I will fight." The corridor felt alive, the air thickened, oppressing her. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, she shoved the woman away, stumbling back toward the door. The apparitions of lost souls swarmed behind her, opening their mouths in hollow cries that gnawed at her sanity. "Help us!" they cried, their voices a jarring choir of despair echoing around her. "You are one of us." Heart pounding, Lisa's fingers gripped the handle. She twisted fiercely, deciding this would be the moment she broke free. With a heave, she pushed the door open wider. A brilliant light spilled into the dreary hallway, momentarily blinding her. But just as she entered the light, she felt a sudden weight at her feet. Shadows surged, wrapping around her ankles like shackles, pulling her back. She gasped, looking down to see the faces of the trapped souls rising up, their eyes wild with desperation. "Save us!" they wailed, their anguished cries making her blood run cold. "No! Let go of me!" she screamed, yanking against the darkness with everything she had. The light from the door flickered, hesitant, as though it too were afraid to cast its glow. Those lost souls clawed and grasped her fear, their lifeline. The woman's laughter echoed, a cruel counterpoint to her struggle. "Your chance at true freedom lies behind that door," the woman taunted, her voice smooth like silk yet laced with poison. "But to leave, you must free them first. Only then will you be released." Lisa's heart sank. The truth of the dilemma washed over her like a cold wave. She could feel her strength waning, caught in this ghastly tug of war. But how? How could she save those lost souls without damning herself? Suddenly, recollection sparked in her mind, moments when she had helped others, choices that created ripples far beyond her own life. "Maybe," she whispered, her heart racing again, "I can break the curse." The faces around her flickered with a glimmer of hope, yet the hold on her tightened, potent and dark. She glanced back at the door, its light pulsating, alive and inviting. She could still leave. "Do I save them?" she whispered, uncertain. "Choose." The woman hissed, her voice an echo of all her failures and fears. Could she find the strength? Was there enough light left in her to fight for those so lost? As the darkness clutched tighter and the light dimmed, Lisa took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. "Okay, I'll try," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos, but even as she summoned her resolve, a sickening chill slithered down her spine. The house groaned around her, and the walls seemed to whisper a growing anticipation, feeding off her fear. "Choose wisely, dear Lisa," the woman crooned, her face a shadowy mask. And with those words, Lisa felt another hand icy cold wrap around her own, a grip more powerful than the darkness. Tighter than fear. "What did I get myself into?" she thought, as the shadows closed in, darkness promising to swallow everything whole. The door shuddered, light flickering uncertainly, as she stood at the precipice of her decision, lost in the snare of shadow and soul. How far down this twisted path would she have to venture to truly discover what she was? The shadows contracted and expanded around Lisa, a swirling mass of anguish that devoured the faint light emanating from the door. The icy hand gripped her tighter, and she could feel her breath quickening, panic clawing at her throat. Was she truly going to let herself be pulled into this maddening darkness? "Help us!" The lost souls echoed around her, their hollow voices echoing through the corridor like a dark melody, each word a desperate plea that struck at Lisa's heart. "You're the key." The woman's laughter rang cruelly as she watched Lisa struggle. "They cling to you, dear. They need you to set them free. But what is your freedom worth, Do you honor their pain or do you honor your own?" Lisa's thoughts fractured. Images of her children dancing through her mind turned dark and twisted, faces dissolving into shadows. She wouldn't allow herself to be taken by this harrowing void. That's what it wanted. Yet, in the corners of her mind stirred a memory of a time when she'd bandaged scraped knees and soothed broken hearts. "Choose, Lisa. Choose." The woman's voice became a slithering hiss, penetrating and relentless. "Sacrifice them, or sacrifice yourself. Make your choice. With a burst of willpower, she yanked her arm away from the icy hand, forcing it to release her. The hold of the shadows lessened, momentarily stunned, like a living entity caught off guard. Heart racing, she stumbled backwards, finding her footing as the light flickered wildly behind her, but now fresh terror gripped her as the ghostly figures surged forward, reach of despair elongated like monstrous limbs. "No! Don't leave us!" they cried, the blend of desperation and hopelessness vibrating through the air like a palpable force. What if she was making the wrong choice? "Let them go," Lisa shouted firmly, as if her voice alone could shred the darkness wrapped around them all. "You deserve to be free." With each word, a warmth began to radiate from her core, an unfamiliar glow. The shadows hissed and twisted around her, recoiling from this light as if they were a creature scorched by sunlight. Lisa's heart surged with simmering determination. "I will not be your vessel anymore." Watching the woman's features warp further into rage, Lisa felt the grip of the shadows splinter and crack beneath the intensity she summoned. She thrust her palm toward the door, feeling the edges of the light stretch like fragile tendrils, reaching for her. Then, the room bit back. Shadows lunged at her, tearing at her resolve, but Lisa stood firm. She could feel the weight of the lost souls, heavy with history and suffering. What's one more scar? She thought, pressing deeper into the abyss of her own pain. Then like a thunderclap the weight of the shadows shattered. They peeled back, revealing stretches of ghostly light illuminating figures once trapped in monochrome despair. Together, Lisa whispered, feeling the warmth flood her veins, "Let us escape together." Together the souls echoed back, gaining strength, colors swirling around them, pale blues, sickly greens opening memories that merged and melded into one. They grasped at her, not as desperate claws clawing to drag her down but as hands clasping together in shared strength. The woman's face twisted with fury, a mask of desperation indistinguishable from the very shadows she manipulated. "You think you can save them? You will be trapped with them eternally." But Lisa's heart thundered with a new conviction. "No more!" She screamed, her voice piercing through the dark, both powerful and unyielding. Suddenly, a blinding light surged from her core, a force that sent shockwaves through the corridor. The shadows bellowed and howled, a cacophony of rage mixed with righteous fury as the light engulfed everything. In that moment, Lisa felt the pulse of life return to the lost souls, liberating them from their agony. And in doing so, she felt something shift inside her too, as though chains she never knew existed shattered at last. "Run!" she shouted, leading them towards the now stable light. But even as hope surged, dread lingered in the air, palpable and thick. What awaited them beyond the door? As Lisa propelled forward, the ground beneath her shook, shadows clawing at her ankles one last time, desperation intertwining with the light. Would they truly escape, or was this merely the prelude to more sinister revelations? The door creaked, a fragile barrier between salvation and terror. Will the light hold? She thought, her heart hammering in her chest, as she and the souls surged forward. The final push awaited, but at what cost? Would she truly find freedom, or was the darkness merely waiting, biding its time? The door swung open, revealing a blinding light that spilled into the corridor, blurring the edges of reality. Lisa barely had time to react. She felt the cold grasp of despair clawing back at her, fingers of shadow trying to pull her back. The souls had found their voice, harmonizing in a cacophony of longing and sorrow, but Lisa could hear only the drum of her heart, pounding against her ribcage. "Go!" she urged them, breaking through the golden light that beckoned like a siren's call. She launched into the brightness, dragging their ethereal forms behind her. The moment they crossed the threshold, the shadows erupted with a wrenching howl, a sound of fury and betrayal that sent chills shooting down her spine. The sound crescendoed into madness, vibrating the air around them. Lisa felt weightless, suspended between grief and hope, as if the ground itself had vanished beneath her. The light enveloped them, wrapping them in warmth, and she closed her eyes against the brilliance. It felt like freedom, yet the memories of anguished cries haunted her thoughts. when she finally opened her eyes, she found herself standing in a familiar park where she'd played as a child. Sunlight filtered through the lush canopy above, illuminating everything with an almost unnatural glow. The vibrant greens of the grass and trees mocked her current turmoil. She felt the weight of the shadows linger inside her like an unshakable ghost. "Is this it?" she whispered, uncertainty clouding her mind. Was this a trick? Had she truly escaped, or was this merely the dark woman's last cruel jest? The souls flitted about her, their once muted colors now shimmering with faint light, searching for clarity in a world that had nearly consumed them. "Do you feel it?" One soul hesitated, its voice barely a breath. "The darkness is waiting." Lisa's heart plummeted. "Waiting? For what? You took us from the shadows, but we are tethered to them still. We can feel it creeping back." Fear prickled at the back of her neck, and her gaze darted around the park. A neighbor's dog barked playfully in the distance, children's laughter rang out like joyous bells, but dread loomed just beyond the warmth of the sun. The ground began to tremble, something darker coiling beneath like a serpent ready to strike. "Don't let it take us again," a soul urged, their whisper turning urgent, frantic. She could feel the pull tugging at her, the shadows stretching from the edges of the park, creeping toward them as if sensing its lost prey had returned. "No!" Lisa shouted, grounding herself with determination. She could not go back. Not now. We've fought too hard. Your heart still carries the weight of their pain, another soul murmured. You must confront it. Only then can we sever our bond with the void. Panic crashed down like a wave. Memories flooded in, nights spent in anguish after losing her children, the isolation gnawing at her sanity. But how? "I don't know how. Face the darkness you outran. It will come for us unless you stand." With each word, shadows stretched closer, swirling like hostile smoke in the bright daylight. They pressed at the edges of her newfound haven, threatening to sicken the light, starkly contrasting the warmth that had swallowed them moments before. "What if I can't?" Her voice trembled. The thought scared her more than the darkness itself. But deep down, Lisa felt the embers of courage kindle again. Maybe facing it wasn't just an option, it was the only way. The ground quaked harder, ripples of darkness rising like ocean waves. "Lisa!" The souls shrieked, their voices a frantic harmony. "Do it now. Before it's too late." Without thinking, Lisa stepped away from the light into the shadowy mist inching towards her. She felt the pull of unease, the weight of despair pressing down, threatening to suffocate her resolve. But this time, she wouldn't run. Bear witness to her truth, she thought. She would confront her torment, her heart a blazing storm of fury. As she took that first step into the encroaching darkness, a thunderous roar erupted around her. Would she emerge stronger, or would she fall prey to the very demons she had tried to escape? The shadows loomed larger, the whispers grew louder, and she could feel her heartbeat pounding in tandem with her fate. What would meet her in the forever night? There was no way back now. Only forward. The confrontation awaited a reckoning that would shake the world she knew. Lisa felt a surge of exhilaration mixed with terror. The moment of truth was about to shatter everything she had ever understood. Darkness enveloped Lisa, swallowing the park whole. She felt a cold breeze dance along her skin, an ominous reminder of what lurked just beyond her sight. The light faded, leaving behind an unsettling gloom. The souls floated closer, their forms dimming as the shadows closed in around them. Whispers entwined with the wind, jarring her senses with indistinguishable dread. "Help us!" One soul cried, its voice cracking. "You must fight it." Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, a loud reminder that she was still alive, still tethered to this world, this frayed, twisted world. But as she stood amidst the gloom, doubt gnawed at her. Could she battle the very darkness she had fled for so long? Ahead, a thick fog rolled in, making it impossible to see more than a few feet in front of her. She remembered the warnings. "Face your truth, they had said. But what did that even mean? How could she confront something so vile, so consuming? The ground beneath her felt unstable, as if each patch might crumble underfoot. Shadows twisted and writhed, forming grotesque figures that danced on the periphery of her vision. They beckoned to her, promising comfort in surrender. If she just stepped back into the light. But the weight of the soul's desperation pulled her deeper into the abyss. "Find her!" came a distant roar, resonating through the gloom. The voice tore through her thoughts, a fierce command, strong and unnerving. She instinctively turned, seeking the source, but the fog only grew thicker, obscuring everything around her. "Who's there?" she shouted, her voice echoing in the emptiness. "Show yourself." Silence swallowed her words. The stillness felt alien, the kind that hints at something lurking just out of sight. Then, without warning, a figure emerged from the murk, a silhouette of malice draped in darkness. The hair on her arms stood on end. She recognized the shape. "Mommy," it croaked, a chilling mimicry that clawed at her heart. It was unmistakably her daughter's voice, the one she had lost. Panic surged, and her stomach twisted into a tight knot. "Mommy, why did you leave me?" "Stop!" Lisa screamed, taking a step back but finding no retreat. The shadows tightened around her, closing in like a vice. The air grew colder, heavy with grief. "You're not real." "Oh, but I am." The shadowy figure shifted and twisted, the familiar shape morphing into something grotesque, a reflection of her sorrow and loss. "And I will always be with you. You cannot escape me." Lisa's body was paralyzed with horror. This was her greatest fear brought to life, the guilt that had choked her for years taking form. She felt raw inside, exposed to the wounds she had so desperately tried to shield. "No!" she cried out, digging her nails into her palms, the pain grounding her within this nightmare. "Face it, Lisa," a soul whispered, more urgent than before. "You must break the chain. Only you can release us." A surge of defiance flared within her. "I did not abandon you," she shouted, gathering her strength. "I loved you. I loved you so much." The shadows flickered, hesitating at the intensity of her words. For the first time, Lisa felt a hint of light within her, breaking through the suffocating darkness. This was her truth. The love she had lost was a weapon, a shield. "Fight!" the souls urged, their voices harmonizing with newfound strength. Lisa took a deep breath, opening her heart wide. "I'm sorry." The words shot out like arrows, piercing through the gloom. "I am here. I'm ready to face you." The darkness recoiled, as if startled by her declaration. It spun wildly, shrieking in rage. Shadows convulsed, reforming into monstrous shapes, but Lisa stood her ground, feeling the warmth of the souls behind her. "Help me!" she cried with fierce desperation. "Help me confront this." And just like that, the fog began to clear, revealing an endless abyss of swirling shadows. What lay beyond? Were there other truths waiting to confront her? The figures seemed to pulse closer, ready to reclaim her. The light of her hope flickered under their weight, testing her resolve. She felt the pull of despair clawing at her legs, drawing her back. Was she strong enough? As the shadows surged forward, Lisa gathered her breath one last time. She would fight, but what if her past was more powerful than she'd ever anticipated? All she could do was press on, diving deeper into the churning mass before her. But would she uncover freedom, or was this merely the first step toward a fate even darker than before? Each breath felt like drowning. Lisa plunged into the depths of darkness swirling around her, the air thick with a putrid heaviness that clawed at her throat. The whispered voices rose in a shriek, drowning out her thoughts, their need wrapping around her like a snake ready to constrict. "Lisa, come back." Her daughter's voice danced through the murk, sweet and tainted, an echo laced with a sinister edge that sent icy fingers down her spine. As she pushed herself deeper, a wave of memories crashed over her: laughter in the park, tiny hands clasping hers, warmth that faded into cold, unyielding despair. Then the ground beneath her shifted, the shadows pulsed like a living entity, foaming with rage. The twisted figures formed a tangle of familiar faces, relatives long lost, friends turned foes, each staring at her with a mix of hurt and anger. Their eyes were sunken and hollow, brimming with a darkness far beyond death. "Why didn't you save us?" they chorused, voices merging into an anguished howl that sliced through her soul. "Enough!" Lisa shouted, shaking her head as if to scatter the memories like autumn leaves. I tried so hard." Her voice broke, the desperation spilling forth like a tide. "Face your truth!" they screamed, the fog thickening once more, wrapping around her limbs like a vice. Lisa felt the warmth of her heart begin to dim, snuffed out by self-doubt. Was she just running from guilt, a coward hiding from what she had done? A fresh wave of sorrow threatened to pull her into its depths. This darkness, it wasn't merely a foe, it was woven from her own choices, but then, an ember flared within. "No!" she yelled, calling forth that memory of love, of laughter, of everything pure she had lost. The souls recoiled momentarily, giving her a fleeting breath of hope. "I will not give in." With an intense clarity, she reached into the shadows, grasping those tortured souls. The more she focused on the light of her memories, the more their forms pulsed beneath her fingers. "You are not me. I will not let you bind me any longer." The echoes transformed, melding into a cacophony of cries that rattled the air. "Help us!" they begged in unison, their screams vibrating through the fog. The pressure grew heavy but changed, swirling around her and lifting, raising her toward the weight of the truth she needed to confront. "Help yourselves!" she cried, finding empowerment in the very pain they emanated. "Release your chains. We can break free together." Suddenly, a piercing light cut through the darkness, alarming the figures as it began to dissipate the fog. The shadows staggered, screaming in agony as they melted away, dissolving into nothingness. Yet even in this moment, a sinister laughter echoed, rising like smoke. "You think it's over, Lisa?" it taunted. "You think the truth will set you free? You haven't even begun." The ground trembled, the fog rolled back to reveal a doorway crafted from darkness itself, a portal swirling and beckoning her closer. "What is it?" she gasped, the horror creeping back into her heart. It felt alive, pulsing with sinister intent, waiting for her next move. With desperate curiosity mixed with dread, she felt drawn forward, the door seeming to call her name. What lay on the other side? A truth she might not be ready to face? As her fingers grazed the cold surface, the laughter boomed around her, resonating with an unsettling promise: "Step inside, and you will see just how deep the darkness runs." Vulnerable and trembling, Lisa hesitated, the weight of her choices heavy upon her chest. Should she walk through that threshold into the unknown? With a pulse of resolve, she closed her eyes, her heart racing. Was she ready to confront the shadows once and for all? Or would she awaken something far worse than she ever imagined? The air crackled with tension as Lisa's fingers lingered on the door, uncertainty bubbling within her like a raging storm. Every whisper of shadow curled around her, urging her forward while the faint glow of her memories held her back. "What am I risking?" she thought frantically. "Can I bear the truth?" But there was no time. Shadows writhed behind her, threatening to engulf everything she cherished in ice-cold murk. Summoning her resolve, Lisa drew a deep breath and stepped through the doorway. Light enveloped her, but it wasn't the warmth she had hoped for. Instead, a blinding brilliance forced her to squint as memories unfolded violently around her. Flashes of joy and despair intertwined, playgrounds filled with laughter, the last embrace of her daughter, moments of guilt that clung like fog. The cacophony threatened to break her. Could she hold it together? A figure emerged from the shimmering light to face her, a reflection of herself, each shadowy edge curling with self-blame and sorrow. "You left us," the mirror image declared, voice trembling with hurt. You abandoned our love. No. I tried to save you. Lisa shouted, desperation cracking her voice. But I lost you. I lost everything. You cannot erase the past, the reflection whispered, shifting from anger to sorrow. But you can choose how it defines you. Without warning, the scene around her shifted, the fog clearing to reveal the faces of the souls she had tried so desperately to save, each one staring at her with a mixture of anguish and longing. Help us. Don't let fear decide your path, Lisa. They yelled in harmony, their voices blending into a haunting yet hopeful chorus, and then it hit her. I understand now, she murmured, her heart blazing with new purpose. It's not them who need saving, it's me who must forgive myself. With a surge of determination, Lisa stepped forward, reaching toward the reflecting figure. I embody all that's lost, but I refuse to be chained to the darkness. I will carry your memories, but I will not be consumed by them. As her hand touched the spectre's face, light erupted, enveloping both of them. The walls of darkness began to crumble, revealing a vast expanse of golden warmth. Yet, the laughter of the woman the dark entity echoed sinisterly, each note dripping with mockery. You think you've won, dear Lisa? Your journey isn't over. You think forgiveness will shield you? It will unleash even more shadows. But Lisa stood tall, her spirit reignited. I will not run from the darkness again. I embrace my pain, it is part of me, but I am stronger than all the fear it brings. I choose love. I choose life for my children, for those lost. We will be free. In response to her declaration, the grasping shadows shrieked, ripping and curling away as warmth surged through her. With every syllable, Lisa gathered strength, uniting with the souls their tormented cries transforming into songs of hope. They would face what had hunted them for so long, not as lost whispers but as resilient voices together. The amalgamation of her past emotions poured forth, strong as the sun's rise. Together we break the chains, she shouted, energy radiating from her, shimmering like fire, merging with the light. The shadows dissipated, swirling into the ether like ashes. And at that moment, she felt a rush of warmth, a presence unmistakably familiar. It was as if her daughter had reached out, wrapping her in a profound embrace. You found me and yourself, a soft voice whispered, filled with love. Lisa's heart swelled, and she smiled through tears of joy. I'm here, sweetheart. I'll never let you go again. The light pulled them upward, breaking the misty layers that had concealed their lives for far too long. With one final breath, Lisa felt the darkness unravel, her fears evaporating into the nothingness as every fragment of sorrow was transformed. They were free. The soul's bright colors cascaded around her, illuminating the remnants of anguish. And just like that, the living memories took root as flowers in the sun, thriving instead of wilting in despair. Lisa awoke in her own living room, sunlight flooding through the windows, the laughter of her children ringing through the air. She looked around, disbelief washing over her. Relief flooded her, and her heart sang. We did it, she breathed, clenching her fists in triumph. But a shadow at the edge of the room flickered, a reminder lingering like a ghost of what was. You'll always need to remember, Lisa, the faint voice echoed. The shadows linger, but you are equipped to face them. Always, she vowed quietly, standing stronger and fiercer than ever. I will embrace both the light and the dark. As she stepped outside, the air was alive, vibrant with color and life, no longer tainted by fear. In that hazy moment, she realized her past wasn't a curse. It was a part of her journey, an intrinsic thread woven into the fabric of her story. This was her farewell, not a goodbye, but a hopeful beginning. The sun hung bright against the clear blue sky, and she felt the sweet rush of a new chapter waiting just for her, a chapter crafted by courage, resilience, and love. And with that, she turned back to her children, ready to take on whatever awaited them together, a future brimming with possibility. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories.
smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you. And wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans know how important it is to support the channel with these actions.